let's start our timer and begin reading. First book done. She saves her period blood into vials. Why am I still awake? What am I doing? Okay, yeah, that was a roller coaster. Hi everyone, it's me. As you can see, we are doing another 24-hour reading challenge today, and this time I'm going to be doing it alone. So basically, Huffy is gone on a work trip for the next week, and I am going to be so lonely for this next week. So my plan is to fill the hole in my heart that he has left. We are going to just read books, and hopefully we won't feel so alone. That's pretty much the plan. I have a bunch of books around me, as you can see. I probably won't be reading every single one of these, but these are all on my possible TBR, books that I want to read in like the semi-near future. So to begin this challenge, I essentially want to prioritize what's remaining of my September TBR because it is the end of the month and I have 3 more books for my TBR that I picked at the beginning of the month to read. The books I'm going to prioritize first for this 24-hour readathon: Heartless Hunter by Kristen Ciccarelli. This is book 1 of the Crimson Moth series. I'm sure you've seen it everywhere on the internet. I honestly have forgotten what this one is about. I think it's some sort of like cat and mouse. Oh, it's like a witch hunter thing, like a witch and a witch hunter. It says on the cover, her deadliest enemy or her greatest love. So we have some sort of, yeah, like cat and mouse, witch hunter, enemies to lovers kind of a story. So we're gonna prioritize this. We're also gonna prioritize, on a very different note, The Wedding People by Alison Espach. I have no idea how to say the last name, but this one is more of a literary or contemporary fiction where one woman, she's about to start her wedding day. We have another woman who's like at a low in her life, I think, and the two of them meet, and I think they have like a heart-to-heart conversation. I don't know, I've heard this is like a feel-good emotional story. And then the third book is one I'm currently reading, so I'm going to just finish this one off first. Is From Lukov with Love by Mariana Zapata. My first Mariana Zapata book. I'm about like 50% into this book, around 200 pages. I think there's something like 250 pages left to go. This is a figure skating romance. I actually have never read a sports romance before, and I think this was a really good one for me to dive into first because I used to be a figure skater. I used to do competitive figure skating, and so this is just making like all of my childhood dreams come true, like seeing a rom-com play out that's like set in a skating environment. I'm living for it, so I am kind of devouring this. I do have a couple of issues with this book so far. I think just overall, it's very wordy. The banter is like too long. Hold on, let's pause, let's rewind. Let me tell you what this book is actually about. So we start off with our main character. My hair is in my mouth. So we start off with our main character, Jasmine. She is a figure skater. She does pairs skating, but at the beginning of the book, she is not currently competing because her previous partner left her to skate with someone else. She has no partner, so she's not competing. She's just kind of like training by herself, trying to keep her skills up, but she has no goal in sight. One day, she ends up, for whatever reason, who knows how this happened, she ends up being asked to pair with basically her rival. There's this guy who's been skating at her rink for her entire life, and he's like the best in the world. He always wins. He's always been her rival. They kind of like hate each other. They butt heads a lot, and for whatever reason, they are now paired together. So they have to learn together, get over their differences, learning how to work as a team, and obviously it's a romance. So we have romance budding in there as well. As I was saying, I think a lot of the banter in it is like a little too argumentative and too wordy. Their little fights go on for too long, you know, where it's like, okay, I get it. You guys aren't agreeing with that. You guys are teasing each other, but we don't need like 5 pages of you teasing each other. Like, I would be fine with 2. 2 pages of really witty banter is all I need, not 5 pages of like repeatedly saying the same things in different ways. So I'm finding the dialogue to be really long, and I guess overall this book is very long. It's over 500 pages, I'm pretty sure, and for like a rom-com type of a book, it never has to be that serious. Like, I was very surprised at how this book was gonna be that long, but yeah, after seeing the way that the characters talk to one another, I'm like, yeah, I can see why this drags out to 500 pages. But other than that, I am really enjoying the story. Again, like, I used to figure skate, so I think a lot of the stuff they're going through with like competing, how they're feeling about kind of imposter syndrome, or just like feeling that they've been training their entire lives and what do they have to show for all those years of training. I can really relate to that as a competitive figure skater and a competitive dancer in my previous lives. Some of the like technical, logistical aspects of the figure skating and the figure skating competitions and how everything's working does not quite really make sense real world. Like, it wouldn't work that way, but you kind of, you know, it's a book, it's a story. Some things in real life are changed to just like help move the plot forward, so I'm not minding that too much. I think it's really cute. Yeah, we're just gonna finish this. Let's start our timer and begin reading. Okay, so it's been about 2 hours since we started the challenge or the readathon. I just finished From Lukov with Love. I thought this was so stinking cute. Love the story. It made me just feel all sorts of like warm fuzzy feelings by the end of it. It was long. It was long. And I think, as I mentioned before, I think it's just because a lot of the conversations were drawn out more than they needed to be. I liked all the scenes that happened. I don't think anything needed to have been cut out in terms of like full scenes. But yeah, just the conversations could have been trimmed up a bit, and this could have been like a 400-page book versus a 500. But it was really cute. It was really dang cute, and by the like peak of the romance moment, I was giggling, I was feeling all warm and fuzzy. It was just great. Also, there was not a lot of spice. So if you're like me and you're not really like, you prefer the more emotional romances with like a little bit of physical versus like the more smutty type of romances, I feel like you would love this. I will say, I don't know what was going on, like if it's just my Kindle copy, but there were quite a few spelling issues, typos, like small grammatical errors. So I don't know what was going on there, because I think this book has been out for a while, so I don't know why it wouldn't have gone through more like copy editing by this point. But yeah, I think overall, really enjoyed it. I feel like I can call myself a Mariana Zapata fan now. First book done. It is 2:35 p.m. We're starting our second book. We started this challenge just past noon. I think it was like 12:05 when I started the timer. So starting book 2, I'm gonna do The Wedding People by Alison Espach. 2 women. I think we focus on 2 women. One of them has arrived on like an island. Is it an island? It's somewhere she's going on vacation, but I think she's just split up with her husband or something like that. So she's kind of in a bad place. She shows up to this hotel, maybe this venue, and she gets mistaken as a wedding guest because she's all dressed up. She just like, I don't know, gets into the wedding somehow, meets the bride of the wedding. They just seem to connect immediately and start confiding in each other, and it sounds like a really just all in your feelings story, and it sounds really interesting to me. I also think that this book gives a little bit of summer vibes. Like, look at the cover. I feel like if I don't read it now, I'm gonna have to wait until next summer, and I don't want to do that. So we're gonna get this book done. We're gonna get this book done before we can't read it anymore. It's just like seasonally inappropriate. Let's go, The Wedding People. Okay, first 20 pages or so. Let's look at the actual number. 16 pages. I've read 16 pages. This book is both more like, not dark, but like serious, like more serious than I thought, but also more funny than I thought at the same time. So just to give you a couple more details about the plot, and these are obviously, I don't think these are spoilers because I've only read 16 pages. Like, how can you spoil a book if you've only read 16 pages of it? The woman that's just separated from her husband, who shows up at this like hotel resort, is actually there to unalive herself. She has everything set in place, like a full plan of what she's gonna do. She runs into the bride and the bride's like, oh, you're not here for my wedding? Because like everyone else at that hotel resort is there for the bride's wedding. It's like, oh, you're not here for my wedding? Like, what are you here to do then? And she tells her, she actually like is honest with the bride and tells her like all her plans. And the bride is like, no, like, you can't do that. You can't do that because it's going to ruin my wedding week. And it sounds just like awful to react that way when someone tells you something like that. But I think the way it's written kind of makes it a bit of a comedic moment. I don't know. It's kind of strange. It definitely is reading like a lit fic, because I feel like lit fics a lot of the time purposefully like make you feel uncomfortable that way. That's what's going on, but we're gonna keep reading. So we've been reading for like pretty much 5 hours now, but I'm getting hungry, so we're gonna eat something. Just to make things quick, I have leftovers from when I ordered brunch this morning. So I have this leftover salad, which is pretty much just, it looks like it's just spring mix, to be honest, but sure. We'll call it a salad. It'll do for now, with some sort of like a vinaigrette dressing. It's like maybe a bit citrusy or something. And we have some leftover home fries. I'm just gonna dump that in there, and we are going to have a girl dinner. I feel like when someone's home, like when Huffy's home and I have like someone to cook for, I always like put more effort into my meals, but when it's just like me feeding myself, I'm like, just throw something together to like eat. I don't know. Which is honestly kind of weird, because I do love food. Like, I love trying food. I love like going out and trying new restaurants and things to eat, and I like cooking new things too and like making food, but for some reason when it's just myself, it feels different. I don't know, but this is my dinner, I suppose. Girl dinner. I am enjoying The Wedding People so far. I'm at about page 150, so I'm like just under halfway through the book. The plot itself is like not that complex at all. It's very simple, and I think that's why the book is really, really quick to read. So there's no like complicated setup. It's not like some big elaborate plot going on. You don't have to meet like a huge cast of characters. It's very, very simple, but we kind of like dive back into our characters' pasts, and everything about it, like everything about this book is just so realistic. Like the things that are happening, like obviously there's some things that are kind of horrible, like the whole situation of why our main character is there is like not good at all, but I feel like, I don't know, just the things that are happening, like everything's like kind of relatable, or things that you could see happening in real life. I don't know, it feels so honest, it feels really real, it's really like witty, and I'm really, really liking it, which is great, because I always say this, me and literary fiction don't always get along. The writing of it's very interesting too, because our main character doesn't actually call the people she meets by their names. Like in her mind, even after she has like met someone, learned their names, in her mind she'll still refer to them as like neck pillow or like high bun, some sort of like describing factor that was like her first impression of that person. She still refers to them as that. So I don't know, it's really interesting. I am liking it so far. It's unique. I've never read anything that had a story or like been written like this, and I am, yeah, pleasantly surprised by The Wedding People so far. Hey guys, so I finished The Wedding People. I feel like I started slowing down on my reading pace, definitely like at the end there. I did enjoy the book, but I feel like just personally, I'm like already starting to get tired. So I don't know how the rest of this 24-hour readathon is going to go. I know last time I did this, I kind of hit a wall probably around this time, around like maybe 8 p.m., 9 p.m. It's a little bit earlier than that right now, but I remember hitting a wall and then like getting a second win later. So we'll see what happens. I also started today at 12 p.m. and the last 24-hour readathon I did, we started at like 7 a.m. or something like that. So I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's because I was also with friends last time. Like we did a group readathon together and I feel like the energy of like everyone around you just keeps you going for longer. I don't know, but just me here alone by myself today doing this readathon with no one home except for my cats. I feel like I'm just starting to like hit a wall. We have 16 and a half hours left. We finished 2 books so far. I did overall end up liking this. It just felt really honest. I loved how every single character was just so honestly imperfect. And I'm actually wondering now because the book Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf was actually mentioned a lot in this book. I wonder if this is somewhat of like a modern retelling or recreation of that. Like this book I feel like was probably inspired by that one. Because yeah, I've never read Mrs. Dalloway, but I know generally what it's about. I'm pretty sure it's about someone who is planning a party, and while we're like leading up to the day of the party or the time of the party, our main character, the party planner, is like reflecting on their past and their life and where they are now. And that was very similar to this, but the party was a wedding and the main character was not the party planner. Like she wasn't the bride, she was just someone who met the bride. So it was kind of like a different reimagining of Mrs. Dalloway in a way. Again, I'm saying that as someone who has never read Mrs. Dalloway, so I could be completely off, but from what I know, it sounds like that. But yeah, that's the wedding planner. The wedding planner? The wedding people. I don't know what I want to read next. I feel like when I started to hit a wall last time, I read a novella and that kind of helped me pull me out of the funk. But the only novella I have right now is an Elin Hilderbrand, and I feel like just the tone of Elin Hilderbrand would be very similar to this because it's kind of like a hotel vacation vibe. I don't know, I feel like it would feel too similar. I think their styles of writing also, now that I'm thinking about it, are pretty similar. Alison Espach and Elin Hilderbrand. So I don't know if I could do that novella because it would just feel like a short story of like the same style. You know what? I think I am gonna pick up Heartless Hunter. I don't know if I'm in the mood for a fantasy right now, but we'll see. Hopefully the book will be really good and it'll pick me up because I think that's what happened last time too. I like felt like I was falling apart, and then the second I started reading a book that I was like, hey, I do like this book. It's getting me excited again. It's fast paced. That helps a lot in readathons. So hopefully Heartless Hunter is like a fast paced book. I feel like it is. Like it's a cat and mouse chase, fantasy, romantasy. I feel like those are always fast paced. So we'll see how it goes. I am fading. I feel so tired. I don't know why. It's only 7:30, so it's not even like past my regular bedtime yet. I feel very tired. But yeah, hopefully we catch our second wind. So I'm on page 53 and we're like learning the way the magic system works, like the way the witches' magic works. It is like a blood sort of magic, so the witches need to like extract their own blood to cast spells. And so the telltale sign of witches in Heartless Hunter in this world is that witches will always have like all sorts of scars on their body because they're just like constantly cutting to get blood for their magic. And since our main character is trying to hide the fact and she doesn't want scars on her, do you know what she does? She collects blood once a month from her period. She saves her period blood into vials once a month so she can like save her blood and then just have like a supply of blood for her magic spells without cutting herself. Like, I mean, it's kind of weird, but it's kind of genius at the same time. I don't think I have heard of this system before, but you know what? Work smarter, not harder. It's 9 p.m. so I have done my bedtime nightly routine because I'm a creature of habit. And so I've like brushed my teeth, done a bit of a body shower. I've put in some eye drops because my eyes were starting to get real dry. Pro tip, if you are planning on tackling some sort of a 24-hour reading challenge, get some eye drops because like the thing that's going to get you the most is your eyes just like getting tired and fatiguing. But anyways, we have moved to the bed. There's a really harsh light on my face right now. It's like my little bedside table light, and I'm just using that because it's making the ambiance much better than like the big overhead light, you know what I mean? I'm gonna continue reading Heartless Hunter. Honestly, I have woken back up. It's worked. Maybe I was in the mood for a fantasy and I didn't even know it, because yeah, I feel like this is really fast paced. The chapters are also really quick, so it's just like picking me back up. I'm still not over the whole like using the period blood as your magic source thing. She also uses her friend's period blood. Her friend also saves her period blood, and like our main character has run out of her own, so she's using her friend's period blood. I mean, sure, I guess, like, if it's there. I'm on page, like, I don't know, 70, 80-ish right now, and things are starting to get interesting. The writing style is very quick and easy to devour. It's very fourth wing, I'm finding, in terms of the style of the writing, and then also, like, just, like, the formatting of the book in general. At every chapter, there's, like, that, you know, have fourth wing, and, like, I know a lot of other fantasy books do this, too. It's not only a fourth wing thing, but it's reminding me of fourth wing. At the beginning of chapters, you'll get like a little blurb. It's usually an excerpt of some sort of a textbook, a book, or like an interview that just gives you a little bit more information about the world. Like it's a tiny little mini info dump, and we get that in this book. For example, here at the beginning of chapter 8, if you can see, I know the lighting is terrible, there's just that little like paragraph. I'm gonna keep reading. I've definitely gotten my second wind. I feel like energized again, and I remember this happened the last time I did a 24-hour reading challenge, so this is good. We're like back in business. And we're gonna get cozy because we're in bed now. We're just gonna like be in bed for the rest of the night. I brought my Kindle and another book, and I've put them on my nightstand to have them ready in case I finish this book in the middle of the night and decide to start another one. I think we have something like 14 hours left, 14 and a half hours left of this challenge. I think I kind of slowed down a little bit as I was getting ready for bed. I was also just like, I kind of rotted a little bit and like went on TikTok and just started doom scrolling. So I lost some time. I wasted some precious reading time there, but we're gonna focus again and we're gonna read. What? What the heck? What the actual heck just happened? Okay, yeah, that was a roller coaster. Once you get over the whole period blood thing, this is just, it's a whole lot of fun. It's an adventure, it's fast paced, it's angsty, the romance is just so like, oh my gosh. And then there were so many twists, which the first couple of twists I predicted, and then it just, wow. Heartless Hunter by Kristen Ciccarelli. I am sold. I think the sequel comes out pretty soon. I don't actually know the date of the sequel release, but I know it's been announced and I know it's like available for pre-order somewhere, I think. If you loved something like Fourth Wing, Heartless Hunter. It's not like school-based. Like the plot is quite different. It's not like a military school or anything. There's no dragons. It's very much witchy. Witches using period blood for magic. But I feel like the vibes were kind of like Fourth Wing-ish. Or maybe not even. I think it was just the writing style that reminded me of it. And like including that like cliffhanger, that painful type of cliffhanger the Fourth Wing series has been infamous for. We got that. What am I doing next? I think it's 12:49. There's 11 hours left in the challenge. I feel tired, but I feel like I'm so pumped up on adrenaline. I don't think I could sleep right now, which is crazy because my bedtime is literally at 9 p.m. I'm such a grandma. Like, why am I still awake? What am I doing? I'm gonna actually read that Elin Hilderbrand novella now because I feel like I just need something real world and calm. So I'm gonna read that, and then after, I don't know, we'll see. But what? What? the other side of the reading challenge. So it is the morning. Pretty tired, but just to update you on what happened yesterday, obviously I finished Heartless Hunter. It truly gave me that like fourth wing addictive feeling. There were plot holes and there were a couple times where I was like, hold on, what? Like I get that this is a fantasy, but that's just too unbelievable for me. Like there's no way that person would make the decision to do that. There were definitely a lot of holes there, but overall it was just such a fun story. I really did love it and I'm really excited to continue reading on. It's setting up for a really exciting second book. After that, I did end up reading the novella. Hold on, let me show you this one. So I did end up reading this novella. It is a 54-page short story by Elin Hilderbrand called Natural Selection. I was very curious to go into this one because if you know Elin Hilderbrand, pretty much all her books, or at least all the books I've heard of and read from her, are set on Nantucket, which is where she grew up and is where she currently still lives, I'm pretty sure. And all of her books have followed this sort of like same cast of townies or like islanders, not townies. So this was the first book I've ever heard from her that was not set on Nantucket Island. So I was really interested and curious to see how her writing would translate to like any other location, because through her books you can really see her love for Nantucket Island. I didn't know how this one would go because this one is set on Galapagos Islands instead, or it's mainly set on a boat but around the Galapagos Islands. So this one follows a girl, I can't remember her name now, I've read so many books in the past 24 hours. Sophia, maybe, I think it's like Sophia or something. She's about to board a flight to go on like a Galapagos Island adventure cruise with her boyfriend when all of a sudden he gets an emergency call, literally like 12 minutes before they're about to board the plane. He answers the call and then he's like, you know what, I'm so sorry, I can't come on the trip anymore. He's like, take my camera, take some pictures for me, we'll talk about it later. So she goes on this vacation, she ends up on this boat, she starts just like meeting the other passengers and they start bonding, and over the course of like the week she just comes to realization on her life and starts reflecting on things. I think the idea of it was really good, but honestly I think this should have been long form. I think this would have been better as a long form book because by the end of this I feel like we didn't have enough time with the characters to push that point of the book across. Like I can see what Elin Hilderbrand was trying to do here with the whole Galapagos Island Darwin natural selection theory. She was trying to connect that to our main character and how she thought about her life and her relationship and stuff. But yeah, I just feel like we didn't have enough pages here to really like dig into that idea. So I thought this was fine. It passed the time. The moral, the message of the entire story didn't really come through for me. The next book I read, I wanted to read something like maybe kind of funny, maybe cute, something that made me giggle and kick my feet. So I started Impractical Magic. It has a very blank cover. So I'm gonna put the actual cover of the book on screen so you can like better visualize what I'm reading. But this is an arc. It actually comes out October 1st though. That's why it looks like this. This was advertised as like Gilmore Girls, small town inn vibes, but then the inn has been cursed. So our main character and her sisters try to save the inn. It's supposed to be cozy, it's supposed to be lighthearted and like witty and bantery. This one didn't hit for me either. I feel like the dialogue and the writing was very kind of like run on. It was hard for me to get into it. It was hard for me to focus because I would be reading it and we'd have this like huge long like dialogue sentence. I'd be like, what the heck? And I kind of see what the author was trying to do because since the book was advertised as like Gilmore Girls style, I was picturing the dialogue to be kind of like that really quick paced talking that is in Gilmore Girls. I just think that maybe that style of dialogue works a lot better in like a TV show format where you're listening to it, where the script is being presented in a very specific way with a very specific rhythm and it makes sense that way, but reading dialogue like that, maybe just not for me. But I did finish it yesterday before I fell asleep. So I read this until around like 4 a.m. and I decided to call it quits. I was like, no, I can't, especially after a book that I didn't really enjoy too much. It just makes you feel tired. So I was really tired, yeah, around 3-4 a.m. and then I fell asleep until 6:30. I did set my alarm because I didn't want to sleep in too much this morning. I still wanted to save some time for as much morning reading as I could before our readathon ends at noon. So I woke up at 6:30. I started the Sirens by Emilia Hart. This is another arc. That's why that's why it looks like this. But I'll put the picture on screen of the actual cover now. This book comes out in March, I think. But this is by Emilia Hart, who's the same author who wrote Wayward, which is a book I loved. It won the Goodreads. Was it the YA award or was it the debut author award? I can't remember, but it won one of the categories of the Goodreads Choice Awards last year, which is why I read Wayward, and I really, really loved that book. I think her writing was very easy to consume, but it was also very like moody. Wayward was about witches. This one is called The Sirens, so obviously it's not about witches, it is about sirens. So I was really curious because I honestly have not read much about sirens. Like I haven't really read a siren mermaid book in a very long time, and this one I just started reading it this morning, so I'm not really far into it. But we follow a girl. She's in school, she's a student, she's living a regular life when all of a sudden she starts having these kind of weird dreams, and an incident happens at the beginning of the book and she's like, whoa, I need some help, this is not okay. She goes to her sister and then realizes that her sister is missing. She's like, okay, this is getting weirder and weirder. So she starts like diving into it, and I'm not there in the book yet, but that's the synopsis. And I think there's a second timeline similar to Wayward. Wayward had 3 timelines. This one has 2, I think. The second timeline is set in the 1800s, and it follows just, I think, 2 other sisters maybe back in time. I want to make the most use out of the next 4 hours. We're gonna just continue to read this. That is the spirit sage. I like your enthusiasm, girly. Yeah, that's all I had to say. I'm gonna read. I have not moved from this seat, but I just finished The Sirens. I thought it was a pretty decent read, definitely a very interesting story. There were some plot holes that I was like, could be cleaned up a little. And I found with Wayward, there were 3 timelines, and I remember when reading that book, I was like, I love all 3 timelines so much. Like I'm so invested in every single POV, every single storyline in this book. In The Sirens, there were the 2 timelines, and I feel like in this case, the like older timeline in the 1800s was only really there as a supporting character to back up what was happening in the modern timeline. So it didn't feel like they were as equal as the 3 timelines were in Wayward. Also, for some reason, some of the timelines were confusing for me. I feel like sometimes mid-chapter, we would jump back and forth between like flashbacks or reflecting on things. The way it was formatted or the way it was written was kind of confusing to me for quite a good chunk of the book. So I was kind of getting the wrong impression of like what was happening when for most of the book. And then at one point, I think it was like 75% of the way through, I was like, oh, so everything that was happening in this POV was happening at like that other time. And then it clicked and then it made sense. But then it made me wish I could like go back to the beginning and reread the book knowing that. I did enjoy it though. I would highly recommend. Put it on your March 2025 reading list. I actually somehow devoured them. My Kindle was telling me this book would take like 4.5 to 5 hours to read, and I managed to beat my time by about like 50 minutes. So I now still have 42 minutes left. I don't know if I want to start like a new book, so I think I'm actually going to continue on with my Throne of Glass rereads. I'll pick up at Empire of Storms and then read as much of that as I can. 3, 2, 1. I need to set my alarm sound to something that is more epic than that next time for 24-hour readathons. I feel like we need more of a celebration ring. But that just finished. Give ourselves a little clap on the back. We just finished our 24-hour readathon. So I'm reading Empire of Storms on my Kindle. I literally have the physical copy on my shelf right there, but I find it's such a thick book. I don't want to like get back into that. It's like so thick and it's so like not floppy. I just felt the Kindle would be easier. So yeah, I was reading on my Kindle, read up to like 50 pages. I'm definitely slowing down. I'm probably gonna take a reading break for the rest of today. We did it. Okay, how many books did we read? So we finished from Lukov with Love. We read like 50% of that book. I think it was like 250 pages. And then we read The Wedding People, Heartless Hunter, Natural Selection, which was the novella, Impractical Magic, The Sirens, and then just a little bit of Empire of Storms. So we read 7 things total. That's really awesome. Go us. I guess this was more successful than my last 24-hour readathon though, which makes sense because I feel like last time I was spending more time, like not a lot of time, but I was spending a little bit of time just like being with friends as well, hanging out, having like meals together and like taking reading breaks and chit-chatting. This past 24 hours, I definitely took a couple breaks where I just rotted a little bit or went on my phone for a bit, but I definitely was able to focus in a bit more because it was just myself. And now I'm back to being lonely because the readathon's done and Huffy is still gone for 5 more days on his work trip. I'm gonna have to find other ways to distract myself this week, guys. Anyways, successful readathon. I'm gonna put the total number of pages I read on the screen here. I don't know what it is. I'll calculate it after when I'm editing this video. But that was fun and I feel so accomplished. I feel like we found some pretty good reads in there too. Heartless Hunter still has my heart like pumping. I hope you did enjoy this video. If you did, please leave me a like and a comment. If you don't know what to comment down below, let me know what books you would read if you were to do a 24-hour readathon. If you like me, subscribe, do that bell thing, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!